Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. Today is September 21st, 2022, Wednesday, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is Ben Dickerson, your co-host. How's everybody doing? Just got through week 2 of the NFL season, and guess what? There are 6 teams left undefeated. That's right, folks. I know it's early, but it's 2-0, and their fans are very happy about it. Those 6 teams may not necessarily be 6 teams that you would have thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season, but here we go. We got the Bills, check. We got the Chiefs, check. Then we got the Dolphins. Then we got the Eagles. Wow. Then we got the Giants. What? And we got the Buccaneers. That's where we're at. Let's roll.
Very, very interesting. Yes. And we had the craziest game that happened to be our intriguing game of the week. We will talk about that a little later on, but let's summarize what happened through week 2. And notice I said through because our numbers carry over week to week to week. So that means this is 2 weeks worth of averages that we're about to throw out for the Sterling net point power rankings. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's look at 1 through 8. Now, again, this is a 32 team league, right? So 1 through 8, that's 1/4 of the teams. And this is generally where you find your Super Bowl champion. I can't remember the last time a Super Bowl champion came out of something lower than 8. I'm not sure if the Rams were lower than 8 last year, but I'll double check on that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We have
They
average net
weren't one, that's
points.
for sure.
Say that one more time.
They weren't number one, that's for sure.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Matter of fact, they were somewhat of a surprise for a lot of people. I don't think they were picked, to be there earlier in the season. All right, the net point power rankings, Sterling Pro Football net point power rankings. We're showing you the average net points that your ANP points for. And again, these are all averages. Ben, we started out and we're going to do averages straight through at this particular point. That way we don't have to switch up like we had been doing. I actually like gross numbers. I think they look, more defined when you see that, a team has 150 plus net points. But if it's spread over 10 games, it's averages 15, and it still puts you relative to your ranking ahead of everybody. So as you can see right there at number 1, A&P average net points, Buffalo 27.5. Again, APF average points 4. Buffalo, highest scorer in the league at this point, averaging 36 points per game. Average points against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, only giving up an average of 6.5 points per game. And here's a surprise for you. Turnover differential, Jacksonville in first place at plus 2.5. And again, turnover differential, like net points, can be both positive and negative. So there's your top group, your number 1 group across the categories that we track most closely. All right, let's look at the top 8 on just net points. You've got Buffalo, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Jacksonville, Miami, San Francisco, and Baltimore. So most of your undefeateds are right there in that group, right?
Right.
Okay. Points. This is your scoring. This is your score. And this is what's hilarious. When I saw that Detroit was number 2 at 35.5 points, and then I remembered how many points up they put up against the Eagles. That was a shootout. Um, Kansas City 35.5. So Detroit and Kansas City are tied in scoring. Then you got a 3-way tie between Miami, Baltimore, and Philadelphia. And then Cleveland's coming in with 28 points per game, and Washington at 27.5. So you got two enrolled to the NFC East in there. You got a NFC. Let's see, AFC: Baltimore, Miami, Kansas City, Buffalo, Detroit. NFC Central. Is that right? For Detroit,
Yeah.
I believe
North.
so.
North. NFC
So,
North.
so here's your top defensive teams. Again, we said Tampa Bay. Buffalo's coming in at 8.5. Tampa Bay with 6.5. Got a two-way tie between San Francisco and Denver. Surprisingly, they play each other my beloved San Francisco 49ers plays Denver. Jacksonville coming in at 14, only giving up 14 points per game. Minnesota 15.5. Interesting number for them. I was surprised that they were even that high up, but again, they were very much you'll talk about them, AC/DC in terms of their results in their first two games. Same thing with Green Bay, AC/DC, with Green Bay in their first two games. And New England is New England. So, they're always going to kind of be right there. And last, we have turnover differential. Jacksonville, again, in first place at 2.5. Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh tied at 2. Buffalo, Baltimore, Philly tied at 1.5. And San Fran and Houston tied at 1. So these are the top 8 teams in each of the categories that we follow most closely. As we say on our page, it's all about the points. What you got, Benny?
Okay, things that caught my eye. Number one, Jacksonville, number one in average turnover differential. They feasted on Matt Ryan this past weekend, and they didn't do too badly in their first game either. Their defense is very frisky, gets around, moves around, and hustles around the field. Things that also caught my eye. Average points for, that's points scored. Detroit sitting in number 2. Yeah, the Detroit Lions have found a way to find themselves into the end zone. They're being well coached. If you watched Hard Knocks, it's one of the more entertaining Hard Knocks series. And you can see that with this coach is preaching, this team is really listening to and really trying to abide by. Also, this is just a thought that I had while watching the games this weekend. Jared Goff is not dead. Okay, Jared Goff has made himself a viable NFL quarterback on a franchise where people thought he would be going nowhere, and this guy's scoring touchdowns. Okay, something else I noticed: average net points, which is basically our top situation for our power rankings. Number 1 is Buffalo. Number 2 is Tampa Bay. Those are the 2 teams that I picked preseason to make it to the Super Bowl. Buffalo, no surprise there. Tampa Bay is a bit of a surprise because they've got all kinds of personnel problems. But there they are sitting at number 2.
Okay. All right. All right. Interesting. Green Bay showing up in the top 8. They're a team who needs to find themselves. We'll talk about that game that they just had. I just thought it was very interesting. I had a thought about Aaron Rodgers, and it's like once he signed that big contract, it's like his job changed a little bit. Now it's not like super Aaron with a few super people around him. It's super Aaron, but he's now got to almost be like a coach on the field, with these young guys and, rookies and, all of the, that's, and it's interesting to hear him talk about they got to catch the ball or they're not going to be in here, you know. That sounds like stuff from a coach to me, more so than from your player brother. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how he straddles that responsibility now, because when you take up the big portion of the contract of the cap, you know, what you get is what you get. So it's going to be interesting to see, but it's good to see that their defense is at least in the top 8. All right. Everybody knows the categories now. I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is the next 9 through 16. We talked about Green Bay. So here's Green Bay and the average net points, 0.5, tied with Cleveland. And remember, we used to always talk about the neighborhood, who's in the neighborhood relative to net points, points for, points against, It's always interesting to see who's kind of close. So, like, for example, in points against, Pittsburgh and Chicago tied at 18.5 points per game is what they're giving up, the Chargers are question mark right now, especially with Herbert hurt. But they're scoring 24 points a game, third in the scoring, right behind Arizona at 25 and Atlanta at 26.5. So Atlanta's in 9th place in scoring. I think I'm a little surprised to see that. The Rams are in 14th place in scoring. And the Jets and Carolina are tied for 15th and 16th. Philadelphia is in 14th place in defensively. So they had a pretty good showing against the Vikings. And I know you got a few things to say about your boy Kirk Cousins, so I'll wait to hear that. That's going to be funny for me, you know that. But tied, Dallas, Houston, and the Giants tied. Giants is 11th on defense, tied with those with one of their division rivals, Dallas, at 18 points per game. Pittsburgh and Chicago, as we said, Philly, and then Cincinnati and Seattle tied at 21.5 points per game. The Chargers ranked 9th and turnover differential at +1. You got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way tie, 6-way tie there. Chicago, Miami, Cleveland, Arizona, Giants, and Rams at a half. And then Detroit is sitting at an even 0 net points. So those are your top half, the second quarter of the top half right there, 9 through 16. What you got, Benny?
Not a whole bunch of surprises here. Does my heart good to see my Giants sitting at number 11 overall and number 11 in average points against. That means the defense, although I know in reality is not where I would like it to be just yet, is battling. And 11th overall is great. Hopefully they'll be able to hold on and stay somewhere in that mid-range. That would be a really good season for us. The Chargers, I don't want to get on them too harshly, too early. They really battled with Kansas City last week, and they did give up some points, and their defense didn't play as well as I thought they would, but they're sitting at number 12, and they should be okay as long as Herbert is able to play and doesn't miss any time. Other than that, I don't see any really great surprises here.
Just a quick aside on the Herbert thing, from what I understand, the same doctor that tended to Tyrod Taylor is tending to Herbert, and Tyrod Taylor is actively suing him for what he did.
That is correct. You reminded, I was trying to say to myself, remember to bring that up. Yeah, but right now they're saying Herbert's got a fractured rib.
But it's cartilage, right? I hear it's cartilage.
Yeah, well, that can be very painful because every time you move, that cartilage moves, and that's going to give you pain. But I know I have heard of quarterbacks who have played with such an injury before, and knowing Justin Herbert, he probably will try to suit up and go this weekend.
When I saw him turn down that easy first down, or third down or whatever, it was
looked bad. It looked like his arm went limp and his whole body just kind of, right?
Right there.
Then the very next play, he threw a laser. So that's the kind of injury that it is. You know what I mean? If I go like this, I might be okay. But if I go like this, I might not be okay. We'll see.
Well, 17 through 24 is just okay. On the net points and on the turnover differential, we begin to enter the realm of the negative numbers. These are the teams that are in the minus in net points, meaning that they're allowing more points than what they're scoring on average. So we got Washington, Atlanta, Carolina, Cincinnati, Houston, Chicago, New Orleans, and New England. New Orleans. I don't know between the two guys that I know that you morally or whatever support, Jameis Winston and Kirk Cousins. If you could have had a worse weekend with your boys this weekend or what, holy mackerel.
Bro, I have no words.
Well, your Giants are sitting at 17 at 20 points per game, which ain't bad. And I neglected to tell you.
Yeah, but they're in the positive in net points.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm cool.
I neglected to tell you that when the new Madden comes out, I play up alphabetically through all the teams, and I played the Giants and lost. And I'm like, the game is really giving Daniel Jones some serious props because he was putting balls all over the place. I'm like, look out, okay, Daniel. All right.
Danny Dimes.
Danny Dimes was doing it to me, man. I was like, okay, you know. But we'll keep that in mind. So here you guys 17 through 24. Anything on that?
You mentioned being surprised about Atlanta and the amount of points that they were scoring, but as you can see in net points, they're in the negative, which tells you that the defense isn't holding up very well. That's their plight. Carolina, same way. I don't know if this Baker experiment is going to work out, but it's not all on him. Cincinnati's really in trouble, bro. They're really in trouble. I know people are saying, oh, they'll turn it around. They could have won either one of those two games. And they probably should have, but they didn't. But I don't know. I think they're in trouble. Everybody else.
I tend to agree with you on that. And my thought on that is that they didn't have enough disruption in their team to play as bad as they are coming out to shoot.
Correct. I'm looking at that the same way.
Interesting in your points against. You talk about neighborhoods here, all in that 22 to 23 point range. The Colts, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Panthers, the Saints, the Chargers, all in that 22, giving up about 22 to 23 points per game.
Right. And the surprises there are the Chargers and the Saints, teams that made changes on their defenses, supposedly for the better during the offseason. And it's just not showing up. And I'm really surprised at the Chargers. They got Khalil Mack. They kept Joey Bosa. They got J.C. Jackson back, although he played his first game this past weekend. That was his first game back after surgery. So they still have a chance to get themselves together and all that. But and I'm a little surprised at Miami. But Kansas City, I'm not surprised at all. You know how I feel about Kansas City defense. And I must give them props. In the Chargers game, they came up big when they needed to. But I still think their defense is going to be their downfall this year.
I tend to question that conclusion a little bit. It seemed to me the reason that Herbert was having so much problems is because they were beating up on that boy. They was coming. They was very physical, and it was like a boxing match where he was getting body blows and body blows and body blows, and eventually one of them took its toll. And I was very interested to see how aggressive they were and how physical they were. So I'm gonna keep my eye on that Kansas City defense. I'm not disrespecting them at all. Actually,
I'm not disrespecting. I'm just saying they're playing the way they play because they have to play that way. If they're not super physical, their secondary is going to get ripped to shreds. And it's good that they have the players that they're able to do that. But if you live by the blitz, you're going to die by the blitz. I'm just saying. It's
Well,
going to happen.
physical and blitz is two different things. I don't know if there was all how much blitz.
No, they send heavy pressure. How else are they going to get to him?
No, well, you got four men. You know,
No, they're not that kind of defense.
Well,
their front four ain't that good.
The bottom line is
their front four is not the Bills' front four.
Okay, nobody's the Bills' front four.
Okay, well, you don't talk about them like they are. You're talking about those four. What about those four? Of those four, two of them are really good.
Two of them are damn near Hall of Famers.
Okay.
But
all right.
long story short,
that's a bit of hyperbole. But I'll let you live with that one.
Gave Kansas City a little bit of credit for being physical. That's basically all I was saying.
I didn't take away credit for them being physical. Their defense is not that good. I stand on it.
Okay, there you go. Turnover differential, tied with Minnesota at an even 0. And so when I see Minnesota at an even 0, I know they got a couple, maybe one. How many picks did they get on the Eagles game? Maybe 2.
One, I think.
I know at least one. So I'm thinking, okay, then that first game, which they won pretty big, they must have had some good turnover in that first game also. Dallas, Atlanta, and the Jets at 0.5 on the negative side, and at a full -1, you've got the Patriots, Denver, and Green Bay. All right. Lastly, bottom 25 through 32 in the net points, Vegas, Dallas, the Jets, Arizona, the Rams, Seattle, the Colts, and then last place at a -17.5, the Tennessee Titans. That's an interesting scenario there with Tennessee. Points for Minnesota, Chicago. Minnesota averaging 15. You got a two-way tie, Chicago and Houston at 14.5. Titans 13.5. New England 12, tied with Seattle at 12. Dallas 11.5, and the Colts 10-point average per game. They're starting to look at your boy Matty Ice with some different eyes, man. I'm hearing some people say, the funny thing is when I talked about them guys looking a little old, Matty Ice actually kind of did look a little old, but Flacco turned around and was firing on them guys. Flacco was giving it to them. They won that game. That was an amazing win. Cleveland, Atlanta, three-way tie, Atlanta Commanders and the Rams. Tennessee giving up 31 points per game. Detroit tied with Arizona, giving up 32.5. So here you go. That's a challenge for Detroit. I mean, it's great to be in the top group with scoring, but if you're in the bottom group in defense, your net ain't good. Turnover differential, just to finish that out, Seattle at -1, 25th place. You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way tie between 26th and 30th. The Commanders, the Saints, the Raiders, the Titans, and the Panthers at -1.5. And then closing out the bottom, Cincinnati at -2. Talk about in trouble. And Indianapolis at -2. There's a troubled neighborhood right there, Benny.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for a lot of these teams to pull themselves up out of. I expect the Rams to pull themselves up out of this. I can't really speak on anybody else right now. I mean, I'm sure there's fans of Dallas and Cardinals out there saying, oh, our teams are much better than they're showing right now, these first 2 games. And I'm sure that they'll pull themselves out of it. But I'm not going to speak on them right now because they've each got their own situations they've got to find their way through before they prove to me that they're going to be as good as they were supposed to be. This turnover differential thing is probably going to be the most volatile of the stats that we keep. It only takes 1 or 2 hot games to change those numbers. You know what I mean? Either hot games or duds, one way or the other. You know what I mean? But yeah, not too many great surprises here. These guys are pretty much going to be bottom feeders simply because if they can't score or they can't stop anybody. One reason or the other, or both. They'll be bottom feeders.
Well, the surprise to me, again, defensively, to see the Rams at 29, that's a bit of a surprise. Let's see here. That brings them down in net points to 29th at -8.5, tied with Arizona. That's that NFC West craziness. And so those are a couple of the, and again, Arizona, last place in points against at 33.5. Crazy how they pulled that game out. So there you go. Anything last on the last place group here?
Nah, I'm done with these guys.
Done with these guys. Get out of here. Will you? Gee, Christmas. All right, there you go. So that's the Sterling net point power rankings. Next up, we're going to talk about the upcoming games. This is going into week 3. Can you believe we're at week 3 already?
Yes, absolutely. It's going slow for me.
Is it really?
Yeah, man. When you play fantasy, you can't wait. As soon as the games are done, I'm ready to set my lineup for the next week.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going way too slow.
You're like the kid that wants to grow up too fast. You're like, take your time, kid. I don't grow up too fast. All right. All right, Benny. So let's start out with the Bias Plus report for the matchups coming along in the NFL Week 3 of the 2022 season. We're going to kick this off with the Thursday night matchup, Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns, Bias Plus score of 1. The loneliest number. Favors the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So the Steelers got to go into Cleveland. So last week, the Steelers lost to the Patriots 17-14. Tight, low-scoring game. Unfortunately for me, what I thought was going to be a really strong defense for the Steelers, the loss of T.J. Watt has really, really crippled them. Minkah Fitzpatrick did pick off a pass, but they never got any sacks on Mac Jones, which I'm sure if T.J. Watt was there, they would have gotten to him. Unable to get to Mac Jones, he was able to kind of game manage his team to the victory. Meanwhile, the offense for the Steelers never got in sync. They failed to establish themselves on the ground or through the air. Trubisky's still the starting quarterback, but the cheers for Kenny Pickett, or the chants rather for Kenny Pickett, are going to start to get louder and louder. Now, the Browns, on the other hand, are also coming off a loss to the supposedly lowly New York Jets. The offense seemed to do enough to win, and Jacoby Brissett was a tidy 22 of 27 for 229 and a touchdown. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both did their thing. They were both productive on the ground, and they caught a lot of short passes and were productive through the air also. But with 1:55 left, Chubb scored his 3rd touchdown. Great. He scored 3 touchdowns. That's great for fantasy. Unfortunately, it's not good for clock management. If he had taken a knee or just gone down instead of scoring, the Browns could have run out the clock. 1:55, remember, they could have actually run out the clock and simply won the game. It turns out that the Jets had used their last timeout just before the 2-minute warning. Instead of doing that, they left time on the clock, probably doubted the Jets or took them lightly a little bit. They scored a touchdown, got an onside kick, and scored another touchdown in like 1 minute and ended up winning the game. Amazing. That tells me that the Steelers have a really good chance to win this game but will not. I expect another tight, low-scoring game, and I'm going to take the Browns at home.
Oh, going against the bias. A. All right. Taking the Browns as opposed to the Steelers. That's going to be a close one. It's home. Bias plus is only one, less than a field goal. All right. How about the Houston Texans at the Chicago Bears? Again, we have a bias plus score of one, favoring the Texans.
Texans got a bias, huh?
Yeah,
That doesn't happen very often.
favoring the Texans.
So
Davis Mills,
let's see.
Justin Fields. Very interesting. What have you thought about Justin Fields? You know, I kind of gave him a little kudos early on.
I was really hoping for Justin Fields. I thought that the change in the coaching staff would be good for him. But now all of a sudden it's looking like he's right back where he was last year. This is crazy. He scored a rushing touchdown, but then the Bears fell behind 24-7 to the Packers by halftime. They had opportunities to come back. They tried to run Fields on goal line tries instead of just using David Montgomery, who was having a great day on the ground. In fact, he had 122 yards on 15 carries, but they get to the goal line and the 1 yard line, and they try to run Justin Fields in out of the shotgun.
Yeah, I haven't thought about you on
Okay. Right? Then to add insult to injury, the coaching staff was only able to dial up about 11 pass attempts. No, I'm sorry. He actually threw the ball 14 times, only 14 times, or he only attempted to throw the ball 14 times. He got sacked 3 times. So he actually only let go like 11 passes. I think he converted 7 of them. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. The monsoon was the week before, okay? So that wasn't the issue. It wasn't a freezing cold game like the Patriots had against the Bills last year, where Mac Jones completed 2 passes. It was none of that, okay? How can an NFL team throw 11 attempts and complete 7 in a whole NFL game? That's crazy. I don't understand that.
I'll give you one thing that contributed to that, and that was a surprise power run attack by the Green Bay Packers. They
Okay.
pounding that ball, man. They was running that rock. Whatever
Yes,
issue,
and they did control the clock. That is important.
yeah, whatever issues they were having with the receivers, you can definitely ameliorate them by just running the ball straight down their throats. And then they were coming at them with the 2-back setup with,
Right.
Dylan and what's that, Aaron Jones, whatever. And
Yes.
yeah, the Bears were struggling.
So again, that doesn't bode well for the Bears defense. Okay. So on the other hand, the Texans couldn't really take advantage of the sloppiness of the Broncos last week, and they never found the end zone, and they had to settle for 3 field goals. So I don't know what's going on. Although the Texans defense held up pretty well, but like I said, the Broncos, they're not right. We'll talk about them later, but they're not looking very good either right now. So what I'm going to say on this one is I'm going to say that the Texans are going to go into Chicago and they are going to win this game. I agree with the bias. I'm going with the Texans.
With the bias. Las Vegas Raiders at Tennessee Titans. Bias plus score of 12 favors the Las Vegas Raiders.
Wow. Okay, this is 2 teams that are really having a hard time. Derek Carr and the Raiders got off to a good start against the Cardinals, but then they went cold in the second half. Kyler Murray led a furious comeback and had some really long clock-eating drives with wild scrambles and all kinds of crazy stuff that really messed up the Raiders. Once the Cardinals came back, Carr was only able to throw about 42 of his total 252 yards in the fourth quarter. That wasn't enough. The game got dragged into overtime. The Raiders defense was able to stop the Cardinals on downs on the first possession in overtime. But then once they got the ball, the Cardinals won the game on a Hunter Renfrow catch and fumble, and Byron Murphy scoop and score. Ooh, heartbreaking way to go down. Heartbreaker.
It really was. And even with the with Murphy running it in, then they had to take a look because he kind of let that ball go.
Almost, yeah.
Oh my goodness. He almost
screwed up.
That
up. Yeah. And now, oh God, we got to talk about the Titans.
Titans.
Monday night, the Titans played the Bills and took an L of monumental proportions. Okay. Derrick Henry did not score a touchdown. I'm sorry. Derrick Henry did score a touchdown on their opening drive, but otherwise was completely shut down. And it worked out to an average of 1.9 yards per carry. Derrick Henry, 1.9 yards per carry in a game. Pitiful. Kudos to the Bills defense. Ryan Tannehill had an abysmal night, getting sacked twice, hurried multiple times, intercepted twice. As far as defense is concerned, let's remember in week 1, Daniel Jones was able to sting the secondary for some long balls. And Monday night, Josh Allen torched them, 317 yards, 4 touchdowns. Not looking good for the Titans, I'm telling you. I'm going to go with the Raiders on this one. I guess I'm agreeing with the bias again. Titans defense is a mess.
What I saw from the Titans, Bills, was that the Titans could not control the line of scrimmage. And the best way to stop Derrick Henry is before he gets going. And they were behind the line of scrimmage constantly hitting Derrick Henry. And he's such a tall, upright type guy that's really your best bet. Before he can use his power on you.
Right.
They were really penetrating on a constant basis, not just on the run plays, but of course also putting that pressure in on the pass plays. But the quarterback there for the Titans, and they did bring in Malik Willis.
Well, basically, if you really, really were watching the game carefully, there was a camera angle that showed the head coach, Mike Vrabel, with his arms around Tannehill, basically telling him, bro, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm getting you out of there. They're killing you.
And it takes me to that thought that we've had, and we talked, I'm not going to get into it deeply here about running, the quarterback running. But yeah, Malik Willis came right in and they started running him, so he's not, it didn't seem like he was really ready to come in that backup role and run the full offense. They had like a package of stuff for him, and that's what they had him running. But the Derrick Henry thing, without Derrick Henry, that the Titans are not the Titans, and without AJ Brown, the Titans are not the Titans at this particular point. So you going with the bias.
Yes, sir.
With the Raiders Chiefs at Indianapolis Colts. I believe this is the highest bias of the weekend. That's 27.
As it should be.
Favoring the Kansas City Chiefs. As it should be, he says.
As it should be. Wow. So the Chiefs had a little bit of battle on their hands when they played the Chargers last week. It was a back and forth battle for most of the game. Their defense, unbeknownst to me, actually stepped up and did well and pulled out the game at the end. So I got to give them kudos for that. I'm not saying the Chiefs defense stinks. I'm saying the Chiefs, to be as good a team as they are a little unbalanced offensively and defensively. I don't think their defense is that good. I don't know how many different ways I can explain it, but I'll continue to try if people ask me to. The new and improved Chargers defense was dominant in the first quarter, but the Chiefs defense played far better in the fourth quarter. And I have to say that it's absolutely true. And the Chiefs were propelled to victory by a 99-yard pick six by Jalen Watson. I think Jalen Watson is the guy that was working in the Wendy's like last year. Yeah, and now this guy's running back 99-yard pick sixes to win games for the Kansas City Chiefs. Not much I can say about the Colts. Unfortunately for them, they were shut out and completely outplayed by the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a sentence you're not going to hear a whole heck of a lot. But that's basically it for them. Got to go with the Chiefs on this one, no question.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we're going to keep an eye out on this defense. They came in 19th in points against.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Tied with Miami, Kansas City, and Carolina. It's the Carolina. Miami's bad enough, but Carolina is the neighborhood you don't want to be in.
Exactly.
That's the one. Okay. So you're going with the bias. But, oh my goodness. I know where you're going here. Buffalo Bills at Miami Dolphins by a plus score of 20 favors the Bills.
Yeah, you don't have to ask about this one. You know I'm going with the Bills. They completely destroyed the Titans on Monday night. They look just like what I said 2 seasons ago they were on their way to becoming, which is the best team in the NFL. Right now, that's what they are. Josh Allen was spectacular. He only ran the ball once the entire game, too. One time. Stephon Diggs was unguardable, and he improved Bills' defense. Here's a team that put a lot of work into the defense, and it's actually paying off. These guys look tremendous. They completely stopped.
Lost your sound. I hear you now.
You hear me now? I don't know what caused that. I'm sorry.
Now it said here, it said for me, your internet connection is unstable. Now that was mine.
Okay.
Well, I'm in the basement. Gee, me Christmas. Can't get much closer to the router.
And my router's right here to my right. I can almost touch it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. But
anyway, you were saying the Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins.
Yes. Let's see what the Dolphins do last week. They went into Baltimore and got handled in the first half by Lamar Jackson. He was just basically having his way. Lamar Jackson is the entire Baltimore Ravens run game. They're getting nothing out of whatever running backs they're sticking back there, Kenyon Drake and whoever. Until J.K. Dobbins comes back, he's it. But he's handling it. He's got this team on his shoulders. It's crazy. And the defense was looking really, really stingy in the first half. Then, I don't know what happened. The Dolphins fell behind by 21 points and came roaring back. Of course, it helps to have a track team for a receiving core. They started, Tua turned it up a couple notches, whopping 469 yards. 469 yards through the air. 4 of his 6 total touchdowns were thrown in the fourth quarter. Talk about a hot finish. Tua looked great. Tyreek Hill and Waddle looked unguardable. The Dolphins really turned it on. To be able to pick up that big of a deficit in that short a period of time tells you how dangerous the Dolphins are going to be. But then when you really look at the Baltimore defense, they're starting 2 rookies in their secondary. That could end up being a big problem for them. They're going to have to get their run game together and get a little bit more balanced. I don't know how long Lamar can keep carrying them, but we'll talk about Baltimore later. I'm going to go with the Bills in this game.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And one of Tyreek Hill's touchdowns, he threw up the deuces sign, which I think at one point they were fining people for doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was real smooth with it. He just kind of threw it up.
You just got to kind of throw it. You can't like hold it back and put it in the guy's face and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. He was real smooth.
That would be taunting. Yes, that would be taunting.
Everybody kind of says, okay, we know the Bills. We know how good they are. They're best, if not top 5 best teams in the league. The Dolphins are the question mark. And this is a standard by which you can begin to say, okay, you guys, how much are you guys really ready for prime time? It's going to be interesting because Tua is running that offense, and Mike Daniels, the head
McDaniel.
coach, McDaniel, right?
McDaniels.
Thank you. The head coach from my Niners is dialing up some stuff. And the other thing, this is a division game, right, Benny?
Yes, it is.
This is division.
AFC
So,
East.
when I hear division, I think strange happenings.
No, I understand what you're saying. Believe me.
So I can't wait to see this game.
I'm not saying that the Bills won't be challenged. In fact, I hope they are challenged because I want to see how good can the Dolphins be. This is still early on for the Dolphins in this offense, I'm pretty sure. I
Oh,
will
yeah.
tell you that. I think Tua is going to get better and better as the season goes on. What's going to hold them back is probably their defense and their lack of a consistent run game. But what I did notice was they seem to have elevated Mostert over Evans as the lead run back. So let's see where this goes.
Okay. That's going to be interesting. But you're going with the bias, going with the Bills.
Yes, sir.
Next up, the Lions at the Minnesota Vikings. Bias plus score 3.5 favors the Detroit Lions.
Lions get the bias. Wow. What's this world coming to? Lions, Jaguars. This is crazy. All right, what do we got here? Detroit Lions are not the same old Detroit Lions, that's for sure. They're finding the end zone on a regular basis, and they're playing inspired defense. Jared Goff has been steady and careful with the ball. DeAndre Swift has been very productive in the run game, and he seems to be staying healthy. At this moment, I'm not exactly sure what to make of the Vikings after looking like a force in in week one, when they beat the Packers. They looked horrible against the Eagles. And I mean horrible. They looked horrible against the Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles look good, but the Vikings looked horrible. The defense got shredded unmercifully by Jalen Hurts, and Kirk Cousins added to his pitiful record in prime time. I thought I had heard that statement before, but they brought it up again. He's terrible in prime time games. Monday night games, Sunday night games, he almost always loses. His primetime game record is 10-18. Now, I don't know what that means. I would rather say the Eagles played extremely well and just beat the crap out of them rather than to say this guy's jinxed in prime time.
He threw passes directly into coverage.
At the end of the game, it looks like he quit. He looked like he quit. How you throw one up to Slay? He throws one up. Slay defends it. And he did everything except give you the Mutombo, no. And then you do it again. And he picks it. What are you doing?
It's called a mind fart. And in big time games where the pressure's on, you're going to have more of those than probably you would normally have. But in any event, the Lions are favored, and you're going with?
I'm going with the Vikings to bounce back and beat the Lions in a barn burner.
Oh, he's betting on him again. Jeez. And this also is a divisional contest, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Strange. Baltimore Ravens at New England Patriots. Bias plus score of 13 favors the Baltimore Ravens.
Ravens get the bias. Secondary is weak. Patriots coming to town. I don't know. Let me see. Well, one thing for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson was his usual explosive self against the Dolphins last week. Like I said, they ran up a big early lead, and then the defense basically gave it away as Dolphins came roaring back in the second half and especially in the fourth quarter. But right now, Lamar Jackson is looking really good. He's throwing the ball extremely well. He's the entire running game by himself, like I said. But having to carry the team by himself is going to be even tougher if Baltimore doesn't shore up their defense, especially the secondary, which basically imploded against the Dolphins. Now, the Patriots went into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers with a solid defense and a balanced offensive attack. Everything looked super vanilla. They didn't do anything special, Mac Jones made a couple of good throws, especially the bomb to Aguilar. But other than that, they didn't do anything spectacular. In fact, talk about balance. He threw the ball 35 times and they ran the ball 31 times. They controlled the clock. They looked really good. And the defense recorded 2 turnovers and 3 sacks on Pittsburgh. I tell you what. Ravens going to be challenged going up to New England. I don't know, bro. I think I'm going Patriots here. I'm going against the bias. I'm going Patriots.
Going with the Patriots, like that Patriots defense, keeping Lamar Jackson under wraps and further denigrating his potential contract there if he loses to the Patriots.
That will have nothing to do with it.
Okay, I hear you.
Cincinnati
Bengals.
He's playing spectacular.
And losing.
Okay.
Cincinnati.
You lost a lot of games, Lamar. We're not going to pay you.
All that dazzle ended up what did it end up in? You know, Cincinnati Bengals at New York Jets. The team in trouble facing a team that had another miraculous win situation. I mean, you had the Cardinals, you had the Dolphins, the Jets, all these miraculous win situations that happened last weekend. Bias plus score 2.5, favoring the Bengals.
Okay, so Joe Burrow don't look right. Fixing the offensive line was supposed to be a priority, but the line actually looks worse to me right now. As bad as it was last year, he absorbed sacks, hits, hurries, but he stayed focused downfield and he helped engineer a Super Bowl run. He seemed to be able to stay focused, take the hits, and was still not distracted so much that he couldn't help them win. Now he looks hurried and he looks skittish in the pocket. It's like he took the requisite number of hits from last year and early on, and it's piled up enough to now where he's watching the rush and can't keep his eyes downfield. This is going to be bad for him. Last week, the Cowboys sacked him 6 times. 6 times. And they can't.
The Cowboys also have what is potentially going to be Defensive Player of the Year or Most Valuable Player of the Year.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But guess what? You know that coming in. You know that from film study the week before. Okay?
Still got to stop them.
It's no secret.
You got to stop them.
It's no secret. You got to stop them. And they look completely unable to do that. They had no clue.
Well, I agree with you. I think they're in trouble. I think they've got some issues.
They've got some real issues. Now, good old Joe Flacco and the Jets had a rough week 1 against the Ravens. They looked sloppy. They looked out of sync. We thought Joe was done. We were making fun of him, if I remember correctly. And the rest of the team is too young. But guess what? Last week, the young Jets playmakers followed old Joe into Cleveland, and he cool hand looped them to victory. How you like that? Cool hand loop?
Man.
He cool hand looped him.
I can see some young kid now. Cool hand Luke. Put that in the Google that, because I have no clue what the heck he's.
You never saw the movie Cool Hand Luke?
No, I'm saying some young kid watching this video.
Oh, it's going to be wondering, what does that mean he cool hand looped him? Right. Yeah, Google it, kid. It's on YouTube. Anyway, Joe was cool under pressure. They just fell behind. They fought their way back. They got a break when Nick Chubb scored his 3rd touchdown, like I said earlier when I was talking about Cleveland, and they were able to have enough time to score a touchdown, get an onside kick, and score another touchdown within 60 seconds, which some people would call a New York minute. Did I say 60 seconds? 60 seconds is a minute, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's a New York minute. Okay. And they were able to pull out that win. Now, here's the deal. Like you said, the Bengals are in trouble. I agree with you. I like the Jets to win this game at home at MetLife. and really further embarrass the Bengals so that the alert actually goes out to everybody that the Bengals are in trouble. Because I haven't really heard anybody else say it besides you and me.
Well, and that's absolutely correct.
What the narrative is, they were in both games. They could have easily won them. That's the narrative I'm hearing. But I don't like what I see. My eye test on the Bengals tells me they're hurting.
The other point that you've made twice, and I have slightly different perspective on, is Nick Chubb sliding and killing that clock.
Right.
First off, from what I understand, the first down was at like the 1.5 yard line.
Mm-hmm.
So that has to be a very exact slide if you're going to slide within that small space area. The probability with him scoring, putting up those additional points, went completely against the Jets relative to the probability of them winning. So I think, scoring points like that I have a difficult time throwing blame at him for them losing that.
No. I'm not blaming him. I'm sorry if I made it sound like I'm blaming him. First of all, from what I heard in the post conference, they did not tell him they wanted him to do that.
No, they didn't.
Okay. So if he didn't think of it on his own, being aware of down and distance and time on the clock, then by all means, yeah, he's going to score the touchdown. The blame doesn't lie with him. All I'm simply saying is if he had been able to do it, they probably wouldn't have had to run but maybe one more play. And they could have easily ran out the clock. They could have took a knee and ran the clock out and still won the game. But after they scored the touchdown, they weren't distressed. It was 1:55 left. We can stop them. We're up 2 scores. What happened to the defense?
Well, now we got 2 questions. That's where your question is.
Right. That's where the questions
y'all let Flacco cool hand Luke him, you said?
He cool hand Luked him.
All right, who you got here, Benny? Who you got here?
I'm taking the Jets.
Cool. Cool hand. He likes that cool hand Luke thing, eh?
Yes, sir.
Uh-oh. Another division battle. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders. By a split score 14.5 favors the Eagles. Or as my mama would say, the Eagles.
The Eagles. Eagles. That's old school.
That's old school.
Wow. So we're in Philly. All right. I go to the gym. Everybody's got an Eagles t-shirt on in the gym. Everybody's standing on the bus stops got Eagles hats on. It's crazy. It's on in Philly, man. But I can't hate on them. They look spectacular Monday night. They're off to a 2-1 start, and they ran the Vikings out of the link on Monday night. I mean, it wasn't pretty at all for the Vikings. The defense was stifling. They shut down the Vikings' run game. Dalvin Cook didn't have a chance, could never get started. And their secondary made the receivers' lives miserable. Adam Thielen couldn't get open to save his life. Justin Jefferson was under wraps for most of the game. And they picked off Kirk Cousins 3 times. Offensively, it was a career night for Jalen Hurts. He was efficient in the passing game, 26 of 31, which is really good. 333 yards. He threw for 1 touchdown, and he ran the ball also very well. He ran a touchdown in too, didn't he? I think. I didn't put that in my notes. I'm not sure. Yeah, he ran in 2. He was the second leading rusher on the team with only 11 carries for 57 yards and 2 more touchdowns on the ground. Now, the Commanders weren't pushovers, and they're not going to be pushovers. Carson Wentz has actually been throwing the ball pretty well, and he's been putting up points. The defense is the weakness there. But they lost last week in Detroit, even though Carson threw for 337 and 3 touchdowns. So it's not Carson Wentz, although I heard somebody on TV saying they're just waiting for him to become who he is. I think it was Swagoo. Swagoo says, I'm just waiting for Carson to turn into Carson. But it hasn't happened yet. He's been doing pretty well. So this game is going to be a little bit better, I think, than most Eagles fans are going to want it to be. But I'm going to go with the Eagles on the road. I think they can beat the Commanders on the road.
Just waiting for Carson to be Carson, eh?
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's hilarious. And again, remembering that last year, statistically, he had a good year.
He did. He really did. I think the Colts are kind of kicking themselves now because Matty Ice looks like he fell off a cliff.
Man, I'm telling you. But the thing about the Eagles that's interesting, and again, I have rules for running your quarterback and stuff. So, I don't know where the Eagles really are in terms of, do they really want him to run? Do they want him out the pocket? But I was very curious that at the end of the first half, the score was, I believe, 24-7. And at the end of the game, the score was 24-7. So
Right.
I'm like, okay, what happened in the second half? And it looked like the Eagles were trying to run a controlled game. They were running the ball. They were handing it off, to their running back.
Yes, they kept Miles Sanders in the game for a long time. I noticed that.
Yeah. But I wasn't sure if they were just not trying to score or it just got to the point where they could not complete a drive.
They were over trying to run the ball and run out the clock. And it wasn't working real well for them. They were also trying to get Miles Sanders untracked, which can be a little dangerous when you have the game in hand and he's injury prone. But it looked like they were trying to force feed him and get him some yards, and it just wasn't working out real well for him. I don't know what happened there.
Well, the bottom line is they did not score, and nobody scored in the second half, and so that's a sort of a signal for me. It's like, okay, what happened there? You can't afford too many of those dry spells when you're playing a team that's going to continue to score. You're going to have to be able to continue to score with them. So, okay, you're going with the Eagles over the Commanders. Okay, here's your other boy, Jameis, at the Carolina Panthers. Man, what a combination of quarterback stew we got there between him and Baker. And the bias plus score of 2, just 2, separates them but favors the Panthers much less.
Panthers get the bias on this one, huh?
Oh my God.
This is I don't know. This one could be a stinker. I don't know. After looking good in week 1 against Atlanta, I was really ready to enjoy the new and improved Jameis Winston. I like Jameis.
Yes, I know.
That didn't last long. The Bucs came into the Super Bowl, into the Superdome last week. They sacked him 6 times. He threw 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. And he was chucking and ducking like crazy. I don't know what the heck happened to him. It's almost like the coach said, hey, just pretend you're still in Tampa Bay and let's see what happens. It was crazy. I don't know what happened. All that nice control Jameis Winston that I saw in week 1 and in spurts last year went right out the doggone window. I don't know who to blame. I really don't know who to blame. And also, Alvin Kamara was out too. I'm not sure if he's going to be back this week. We'll have to check and see if he's over his injury. But having him back will help the Saints. There's not a whole lot to say about Carolina. Baker Mayfield's struggling. The defense is struggling. And the only consistent player is Christian McCaffrey, which is great for my fantasy team. But even he isn't producing enough to help them win, at least not like he used to. So, although the Patriots have the bias, I'm going to go with the Saints in this one. I think the Saints have the better team overall, and I think their defense is at least good enough to keep Baker under control. And I don't know how long this Baker's experiment is going to keep going. We might see Sam Darnold soon. I don't know. This is crazy. But yeah, I'm going to take the Saints.
What a thought. We're gonna sit Baker down and put Darnold in there. Yeah, okay, that's gonna lift you.
That's I tell you what, if they take Baker out and put Darnold in to like finish a game or something, and then start Baker again the next week, that won't be so bad. But if they start Darnold, Baker Mayfield's basically done. It's over for him. And they won't think twice about it because they basically got him for nothing.
He paid a little bit of his own salary, didn't he?
Yes.
Jacksonville Jaguars at the LA Chargers. Bias plus score of 9.5 favors the Jaguars, baby.
Jags got the bias. Gotta
They
love it.
got the
Gotta
bias.
love it.
They got that young talent coming at you.
Hey, could we be seeing the changing of the guard in the AFC South? It's possible. Jags showed a lot of spunk in week 1 against Washington. They lost. Carson played really well, but it was a good game. It was high scoring. And then this past weekend, they straight shut out the Colts. I mean, they shut out the Colts. These guys are the same guys. Remember, we just did the power rankings. They're number 1 in turnover differential. They're playing good defense. They held Jonathan Taylor to 54 yards rushing. They picked off Matt Ryan 3 times. I'm not ready to say that this defense is really for real, but these guys are balling right now. They're balling right now. Trevor Lawrence was very efficient with the ball, threw 2 touchdown passes. Unfortunately, it was a tough week last week for the Chargers, especially with Justin Herbert getting hurt. That was a big-time AFC rivalry game against Kansas City. It went back and forth. They lost it in the end. And with Herbert being hurt with fractured rib, I'm not exactly sure where we're going here. If Herbert can play, I obviously am taking the Chargers. If he can't play, I don't know. I almost don't know what to say. I'm going to take the Chargers because I need to make a pick. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I can't even remember who the Chargers' backup quarterback is. Do you know?
Chase Daniels.
Chase Daniels. Oh, I like Chase Daniels. Good backup. Okay, we're cool. Take the Chargers.
Jacksonville Jaguars ranked 5th in net points at this point.
That's crazy. I don't think I've ever seen them that high, ever, since we've been doing this.
I'm telling you. Okay, but you're not going to go with them.
No, I can't. The Chargers are home. I can't do that.
Okay. NFC West, baby. LA Rams going down to Arizona for the Cardinals, and the bias plus score is a tie. 2 straight weeks we have a tie. I did not choose this as my intriguing game of the week, though.
Oh, no?
I left this one alone. Yeah. The Rams are trying to get their act together. The Cardinals are trying to get their act together. And yeah, can I tell you, it's going to be a clash. Bias plus score of 0 favors a tie. But Ben, who are you going to favor?
Well, the Rams beat the Falcons last week in a game that on paper I would say should have been easy, but it wasn't easy. They led the whole game, but with a 28-3 lead going into the third quarter, the Falcons were able to rally back and almost overtake them. I think Jalen Ramsey made a red zone interception that pretty much slowed the Falcons down to a stop. Yeah, he saved them. That doesn't bode well for the Rams defense. And I know you said you were surprised at how low they were in the power rankings, but just like the Chiefs, I will say, and I know people may or may not understand why I'm saying or whatever, the Rams defense, for the caliber of team they're supposed to be, just ain't that good. They're not that good. Now, that being said, in Vegas, it was the Kyler Murray show. He beat the Raiders basically single-handedly. He made the throws he had to make, and he made the runs he had to make, and he didn't run a whole heck of a lot. He scrambled a lot more. He scrambled and threw the ball a lot more than he just took off and ran. But he is really carrying this team on his shoulders for a little guy that's going to be tough. But I'm telling you, he jitterbugged his way through one spectacular play after another. And again, especially when he got outside the pocket, he was a menace. Nobody could catch him. He's running these guys around in circles and catching and finding receivers on broken plays. It was amazing. So guess what? I'm taking Kyler Murray at home over the Rams.
Okay, I heard you just say that the Rams defense is just not that good. Is that what you just said?
That's what I just said.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Going with the Cardinals. Then you just mentioned the Falcons. They're going to go in and play the Seahawks, and the bias plus score of 7.5 favors those Falcons in Seattle. Come on, DK, you and Lockett, y'all can't allow this. Wait a minute. The Falcons have an outstanding young tight end themselves, don't they? Freak of nature.
Okay, so the Falcons are going up to see the 12th man when they play the Seahawks this weekend. Okay, that's great. Falcons haven't been terrible. In fact, they've been pretty good on offense, a lot better than I thought. Mariota's really fighting hard. Cordarrelle Patterson's still a pretty good running back. I'm surprised that our guy from Philly, Pitts, hasn't really been shining this season so far, but I think he's going to come along as it goes on. Geno Smith, the Seahawks quarterback, has not been bad. Hasn't been bad at all. But I got to pick a winner here, and I don't respect either defense, unfortunately. So I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to take the Seahawks. I'm sorry. I gotta give a little mea culpa here. This game does not thrill me at all. But I'm going to pick somebody, and I'm going to pick the Seahawks. Who had the bias in this one?
Falcons.
The Falcons. Okay. Well, I'm going against the bias, so that makes me happy.
7.5 is the bias
Okay.
score.
That's not big.
No, it's not big. It's not big. Geno did actually look good, and he must have heard me talking.
Geno's he's starting to look like he's getting comfortable there. The team believes in him. At least he believes the team believes in him, and they're tailoring the plays for him. I'm sure they're doing stuff that he feels comfortable with, and he's doing it really well.
Well, he had a couple of those scramble drills that he worked really well in, and I know that's something that the Seahawks work on. So he probably has had chances to practice it and everything.
Right.
Question is going to be, as the rest of the league gets tape on him, whether or not he's going to be able to get through that. That's going to be the question as far as I'm concerned. But you're going with the
Seahawks.
Going with them. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Going Geno.
All right. The GB Packers, short for Green Bay, this Battle of the Bays, at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the bias plus score of 15.5 favors the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hey, Bucks got the bias, and the Bucks are at home. That says a lot for me. But boy, there's a lot to talk about when you talk about the Bucks. First of all, Aaron Rodgers clearly owns the Bears, so we don't even have to talk about that. But the Bucks is going to be a different matter, or are they? Tom Brady lost his cool in the Super Bowl, in the Superdome, rather. His loss of control, in my eyes, is what sparked that big brawl. I know Lattimore said something to him. He whipped his head around and snapped back at Lattimore. I don't know what Lattimore said, but that's when Fournette jumped in it, pushed Lattimore, and then Mike Evans came off the sideline and knocked him down. So that's the way I saw that brawl. Brady today apologized for losing his cool and said that he played with far too much emotion in this game, and he has to tailor it back, tone it back a little bit. So even he realizes, and people look at Tom Brady as a real cool guy, but he's a pretty fiery dude. He yells at players, he yells at his teammates, he fires up guys on the sidelines, but he got a little bit beyond himself in this one, and even he realized it, and he apologized for it and said he has to do better. Unfortunately, that brawl cost them Mike Evans, who has to serve a suspension this week. Julio Jones is hurt again after getting through one stinking game. Chris Godwin, who they rushed back too soon, is still out. They don't know when he's coming back. There's no Gronk. This offense is turning into a shell of itself. The receiving core is basically down to Brashad Perriman, and they just signed Cole Beasley. Cole, I'm not getting vaccinated Beasley. So
practice squad.
Yeah, but I bet he starts this weekend. I bet he's on the practice squad so he can learn the plays. He'll start. He'll be in the regular practice by today's Thursday, right? Yeah. He'll be in regular practice tomorrow.
I would Wednesday.
Bet money.
Today's Wednesday.
He'll be in practice, regular practice, taking first team reps. If not tomorrow, then on Friday. I guarantee it.
All righty. So
that being said, I'm still taking the Bucks.
Going with the bias, going with the Bucks.
Yeah, the defense will keep them in it.
All righty. My beloved San Francisco 49ers are going into Mile High Stadium to see Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Bias plus score 4.5 favors the San Francisco 49ers. I saw a news item that said that there's a possibility that Trey Lance could be back before the end of the season.
Okay.
I'm surprised at that. Not that they're saying they expect him to come back and play, but I think that they're saying that his surgery and the expected results are a little better than they thought initially. So
note, they said before the end of the season, right? They didn't say before the end of the regular season, did they?
No.
That means he could be back for a playoff push if Jimmy G can get him there. But doesn't mean anything, because if he takes him that far, there's no way they're going to do anything about that. So right. The good news is if Trey Lance is back or ready to actually practice and run around before the regular season is over, that means he has another whole offseason to get himself together to be ready to start the following year. That's what they're telling you as a fan. We're going to try to run this back again in 2023. And you won't have to worry about him missing any time in training camp because he'll be ready before training camp. That's what they're telling you.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all that means. So now, I don't want to make a long story short about the 49ers. Jimmy G replaced Trey Lance when he hurt his ankle. And Jimmy Garoppolo, coming off shoulder surgery with no first team reps in practice and looked like he's never left. How great is that? He didn't have to be spectacular. It was the Seahawks after all, but he was steady, he was efficient, and he threw a nice touchdown pass, and the San Francisco locker room is all smiles. All is right with the world, and now they can go on and fulfill their destiny as I put it out there, because Jimmy G is back. The Broncos have won a game they were supposed to win, but the offense still looks a little disjointed, and Russell Wilson looks really, really old. All of a sudden, Russell Wilson looks old to me. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but he's just not moving well. I don't know what's going on. Somebody said he looks a little bit too big, like he put on weight because of all the hits that he took in Seattle to try to protect himself. He lifted a lot of weights and put on a whole lot of muscle, and now he looks sluggish when he moves around. I don't know.
I have to keep an eye out on that.
Yeah, but he ain't moving the same way. So That being said, take the 49ers easy.
The Niners have brought in 3 or 4 quarterbacks now. They're looking at some additional backup quarterbacks because the only backup we have right now is one Brock Purdy. Do you remember Brock Purdy, Benny?
Yeah, we talked about Brock Purdy. They got rid of Sudfeld too.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Right.
Brock Purdy. I was so surprised that the Niners took a quarterback for the very last pick of the draft. I thought that was a little weird. But okay, that's what they did, and that's who's sitting there. So if Garoppolo goes down this weekend, that's who we're looking to step in for the Niners, one Mr. Brock Purdy. So we'll see how that all goes. But you're going with the Niners and going with the bias.
Yep.
All right, Benny. Can you be objective with the Dallas Cowboys at the New York Giants? And
I
the
can
New York
try.
Giants are favored by a bias plus score of 9.5 over those Cowboys.
Well, if the bias likes him, why do I have to be objective? Right? Right? The power rankings say my team is better, right?
What the bias says is that your team has definitely done better up to this point.
And how much better are they?
9.5 is the bias plus score in their favor. But Benny, got Cooper Rush coming in.
That's better than a touchdown, bro. Okay, let's quiet down on this Cooper Rush stuff. All right. Come on, y'all. Come on.
They got Cooper
That's called lightning in a bottle. Won't happen again. Everybody and their mom shoveled dirt on Dallas. There's no doubt about that. Freaking Cooper Rush comes in. He doesn't stink. And in fact, he game manages his way and throws a couple of really good passes to eke out a win over the Bengals, who we said are in trouble. Okay. People still can't believe that the Bengals lost that game. They're saying, oh, the Bengals should have won that game. Okay. So there's nobody's still giving Cooper Rush credit for what he did. I will give him credit for what he did. I don't think he can do it again. My New York Giants are on prime time. Prime time.
Yes.
Prime time. Last week, they won a game against Carolina that last year they probably would have found a way to lose. That's the difference in my New York Giants. They love their new head coach. They love what they're doing. They love each other, and they're winning games and finding ways to win rather than finding ways to lose. And I'm very, very happy about that. I am taking the Giants to beat the Cowboys. And I had a couple of Eagles fans come up to me at the gym and said that they're rooting for us. I don't know if that's good or bad. They just hate the Cowboys that much.
Yeah. Anything that they think will anything that they think will help the Eagles, they don't care. There's no real loyalty alliances there at all.
No, their hate for the Cowboys is almost stronger than their love for their own team. It's crazy. It's insane.
All right. That looks like it. Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. So what we have here, Benny, is we just finished talking about the bias plus score for the upcoming weekend, but for week 2, we have to say congratulations. The winner of the bias plus buster of the week in week 2 was the Green Bay Packers, baby. Unfavorable
Really?
bias plus score of 28 with a net win of plus 17 gave them a bias plus buster score of 45. Guess who came in second place? My Niners.
Wow.
But if you remember how bad they won that first game, they had a lot of negative points, going into week 2. So
the Bears actually had the bias in that game?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they did. They did.
Remember how badly the Packers played in week 1?
Yeah.
The Bears won. They beat my Niners,
well, that's a little okay.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
it's still the second preseason. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
Manny, I wanted to mention this. That means that this ends the second preseason as we define the first 3 games of the regular season. So that synchronization time, I was thinking about sync season. What do you think about sync season? You know, getting synchronized here.
Getting synchronized. Some teams still aren't synchronized.
You know,
Might take a couple more games. Remember,
so
I said 3 to 4. So we'll see. But I think some of the better teams are pretty much catching their stride.
yeah, they're starting to get it together. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I said, the Packers said to themselves, okay, we know what we got receiver wise. Let's lean on this run game. They did. It worked. You know what I mean? And so people are going to find out what works for them now. And they're going to start working with that. So it's going to be very interesting as we finish up week 3 to see where we stand net point wise, et cetera, then going into that 4th game. So,
Right.
well, I don't really have anything from the page. There really wasn't much popping on the page. So I don't really have much beyond the everything that we've done up to this particular point. So unless you have something, I'm done.
You wrote yourself a nice little blog there in reference to Trey Lance. And I'm not trying to like get on you and mess with your head. I made a statement in reference to one of the statements that you made. And I wasn't saying that you were wrong. I was just saying that the statement I didn't think was a proper statement. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think you said something about the Niners trying to turn a quarterback into a runner. Am I quoting you correctly?
The Niners and too much of the league, I believe. But go ahead.
Is that you said they're trying to turn a quarterback?
What my point was I was saying that to me it makes bad economics to take a $40 million player and have him do the things that your $10 million players can do. You can get 4 of those $10 million players. So when they start getting injured, you replace one with the other. But this $40 million guy who is supposed to be your future, your franchise, et cetera, if you have him doing too much of the $10 million work, economically, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's all I was saying. It just seemed to be there's an economic reason to avoid running your quarterback too much. And it's really interesting because we're moving into a time when it seems like everybody wants that quarterback that can run. And my Niners, as I said before, right, they put in run packages for Trey Lance. But right, Trey Lance got a very healthy rookie deal. So they're paying good money to have him now, rehab for a year. Well, but that's not only case. It was purely an economic look at using your quarterback to do a lot of running.
Really, all I was saying was your sentence sounded like they were trying to take a non-running quarterback and make him a running quarterback, and that's not the case.
Oh yeah, no, not
okay. What's happening now is everybody's looking for a dual threat. Okay, in my eyes, in my mind, there's 2 kinds of quarterbacks in the NFL: pocket passers and dual threats. Okay, and guys are going out trying to find these dual threats. The reason that they spent 3 first-round picks and moved up in their draft was because they wanted a dual threat quarterback, and they focused on him as being that guy. So they're not trying to make him into anything.
I agree with you. That okay. He's not, right. He was as a matter of fact, he was quoted as saying that the difference between college to him and the pros was in the pros, he's not bigger, faster, and stronger than
than
everybody
everybody else. Right. And that happens to a lot of these college guys,
else.
a whole bunch of them. That's why everybody don't, some of these college, so-called college stars don't make it in the NFL. That's exactly why. But I watched the play where he got hurt several times in a row. And it was an option. And he didn't do well with his read. The outside pass rusher on the side that he faked the handoff to the back actually crashed in. And if he had given it to the back could have made it out. But he decided to keep it, ran into traffic, tried to put on the brakes. And as he put on the brakes, his body was over his leg. They hit him, and all his weight collapsed on his ankle. So bad read on his part, not necessarily a bad play.
Well, again, how much do you want to run this guy? And like I said, I think that the dichotomy.
Well, you can say that about everybody until that one play when they get hurt. Does that mean you ran them one play too many?
No, I'm just saying the dichotomy is that we're moving toward utilizing our quarterbacks more in a running, to run the ball.
Not more.
I think so.
Not more.
I think so. I don't think
who
that
runs more than they throw. Even Lamar doesn't do that.
Over time, the NFL now has moved toward more mobile quarterbacks.
That's different from what you just said. That's two different things.
But what did I just say?
Trying to get their quarterbacks to run more.
No, okay.
That's not what they're doing.
Like that. That's not, what I was saying, what I was trying to say is that it seems as we're moving into a time, like you said, everybody now is looking for that dual threat quarterback.
Right. They want quarterbacks
at a time when the salary cap, new forms of revenue are coming along, and we're paying these quarterbacks exorbitant money, big money, and a lot of guaranteed money,
Because they're dual threats. They're paying for what they want.
Well, okay, but what you're going to get is quarterbacks who don't make it through the season.
That's the chance they're willing to take. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it.
But I don't think it makes good economic sense. And that was my point. So there you go. All right. Anything else?
No, I'm trying to think. I did have something else. Doggone it. I can't remember what it was. But if I remember it, I'll text it to you like we always do. Enjoy the games this weekend, everybody. Go Noles.